mean, that's kind of like a very linear, again, pharmaceutical approach, like antiviral, antibiotics, which has created an epidemic of antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria called MRSA, which you see mostly in a sanitized hospital. That's where it thrives, weirdly enough, right? So this is a really cool principle. Again, it's the idea that life begets life. Like attracts like in that sense, right? So when we focus on terrain modification opposed to antibioticizing everything, in that sense, then we create a different ecosystem where damp, wet, swampy-ish organisms can't thrive. Now, what do I mean by that? It's kind of a Chinese perspective, again, is the damp, wet spleen, which I think is super generalized and not really totally accurate. But the principle is still the same, is that Candida essentially is an organism, is a fungus, that normally that fungus or that yeast is set up in your body as a recycling organism. So all the metabolic waste products that we have in the body, that's one of the things that actually recycles and eats those, what's called necrotic or dead matter. It eats all that stuff up. So in that way, it's actually a preservation organism. But when your inner ecosystem starts to take on acidity and swampiness, and you lose digestive fire, you lose your stomach acid, then it morphs. It's like a morphogenic thing where it turns into this fungal overgrowth and goes rampant, basically. And also another note on these infectious organisms is that they are stealth pathogens, which means that their DNA, like a virus, is kind of like a parasite in the sense that its DNA morphs with your DNA or our DNA and to create more of itself, to create more cell divisions of itself. So essentially, that organism takes over its host and uses it like a remote control. And we wonder why people act a certain way or why the decisions in the world are being made the way they are. It's parasite consciousness, right? So like, it's like, wow, this all starts to make a lot more sense. Or even just in the microcosm of our own life, like, why am I getting so triggered? Why am I getting so agitated? Or why is it when I don't have something to eat for a while, I'm like a different person? And then I put something in my mouth and then everything calms down.
Sugar cravings for sure.
Right.
It'll dictate like what you want to put in your body too. Like so caffeine.
Spot on. Yeah. So the question. Absolutely. Yeah, it's an organism that it wants to survive. So the thing is, like, we really want to get. I know us in this room, we're of a different focus, but as a culture, we need to get out of this whole idea that we're going to drop a nuclear bomb on a village and somehow create peace, or we're going to drop a nuke inside our rainforest and somehow create like flourishing ecosystem. Right? It doesn't really make sense. That would only make sense to a parasite. So, again, it's like terrain modification. All this comes back to that basic principle of health and vitality, is that if you have something out of balance, you want to uncover the root causes that are perpetuating the condition, and then to start uprooting these old belief systems, these old mental patterns, these emotional associations that we associate to, that create stress, and eating habits. And then uproot these things in our archetype so we can plant new seeds of